Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead.
Yep.
What was the lowest score that you ever got that ended up being a super success?
Lowest score. You mean on the test? Oh, fuck. On the super success test where the answer is super success, failure, and there's 2 or 3 different levels of failure, but one level is you're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. So anything other than a perfect score. On the -3, we've had people as, for example, Sally's scoring on the success test is -2. Of course, we had a couple -3s in this room. One -3 also got a perfect score on the super success. But if you get much more than 3 or 4 on the success test, normally, like a couple of you have, normally there's too much damage. You can't, If you got those scores when you're 50 years old, you're fucked. If you got those scores when you're 25, you can change. But, the old saying about old dogs learning new tricks is so accurate. It's harder. But Nottingham, who was 66, he still had fire in his belly to prove that he still had fire in his belly, so he was able to do it. And he got poor scores. I think he got +2 and fucked on the super success test. But you can change, but you have to want to change. It's like calories in, energy, without the excuses people use that I've got a bad thyroid, I already went through this. But I mean, you can change, but you got to want to change. You got to want to, every morning I get up, this morning when I did my exercise with a kettle, I didn't want to. I wanted to stay in bed. But I can't, I don't think I've stayed in bed when I should have got up one time in my life. I always guilt myself out of bed. I might be 2 or 3 minutes late, but the guilt, the Catholic altar boy is too strong in me. I can't overcome it, It's like, so those are habits that I've had for all my life. And it's tough. And fortunately, a lot of my habits are good habits, But I mean, most of the habits you derive from the average of the 5 people you spend most of the time with. I've already said that. And your parents didn't. Now, we've had parents in here that try to fuck up their kids. But for the most part, they don't, but the kids aren't programmed for success. You're just not. And being a program for religion doesn't mean you're programmed for success. And in many cases, it's the antithesis. You learn all the bad things. And because they're somehow God-related, you think that they're bad, but they're not as bad because they have something to do with religion. All the things that religions teach you aren't necessarily good. Like, I've read the Quran. Now, some of the interpretations of the Quran that I hear, unless they got a new edition of the Quran, but it's not in the Quran. It just isn't. But you interpret stuff like you want to interpret it. And so when I was in Israel, and we're seeing these holy sites, and some of them are jointly controlled by Muslim, Greek Orthodox, and they're fighting over the same thing. I don't believe that the Jews and the Palestinians will ever resolve their differences. Never going to happen. I don't think that the Arab countries in Israel are ever going to resolve their problem. Never happen. And I've been in business with both sides, and I've been to Palestine, and it's just not going to happen. And the fact that, but if you say it's not going to happen, then everybody thinks it's complete. Well, it's complete even though they're not saying it, because you talk to everybody hates, hatred is an ugly thing, and there's certain things that just aren't happening. The Onassis group had a saying, don't waste time on things you can't change. And they listed 4 or 5 things. The British, this is true, don't waste time on things you can't change. The British, the Jews, and the Arabs, and they had another one, which escapes me now. Not going to change. Oh, well, and Costa said, your in-laws. Okay. Married 7 times, Costa Grazos. Lost 7 wives at sea in tragic boating accidents. What are the odds of that, you know? I knew his 8th wife. She was an Austrian girl. She would not fly with him. She would not sail with him. They took a train, the Onassis train, which is really, and when you get some money ahead, take the Orient Express. It is really a super, it's very, very expensive. The Orient Express, but that's what their train looked like. You're not going to change your in-laws. Not going to happen. I don't care. And I know a lot of ethnicities, in-laws live with you. I can't even imagine that, but I know that it happens. But and there's certain things that are just absolutes in life. And there's always going to be turmoil between the various parties. This thing with the SNP here up in Scotland, I believe, is the thing that will ruin Scottish National Party forever. Because everybody, all the ugliness is coming out since, and the reason why I believe Nicola Sturgeon resigned as First Minister, the CEO resigned, the communication, because these white papers that have been pushed out legally for years and years and years and years are coming due in October, November this year. And they're going to see a lot of ugly shit. You know, monies. How does 233 million pounds disappear in cyberspace? I know how it does in Morocco. I know how it in Dubai. But in fucking Edinburgh? How's that possible? Well, we all know how it's possible, right? And now they're waking up to that, and it's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly. But getting back, I mean, you have these opportunities, and you're going to have an opportunity. When you follow the advice, you don't share this with anybody, but you're going to be at a dinner, Christmas or New Year's or something, or Easter's coming up, right? Okay. And you will not have broken loose by Easter. I can tell you, I'll tell you. And somebody's going to say something that you know is just absolute horseshit. There's no truth basis whatsoever in it. And you're not going to say a word. And by you not saying a word, you've given them tacit approval. And if you got a teenage 14-year-old son that might be there, and he's thinking, Jesus, Dad knows better than that. I guess he must be a cunt. And there's never an easy time to make a hard decision. Never. It's not going to get easier. Back in the 70s and 80s, when they call people, is this a good time? I don't know if they still do that. I just hang up. I don't even, Is this just like working on it? You know, a lot of you are working on something. I knew Steve Jobs. I can't imagine he'd ever say, I'm working on something. I know I don't. You either make the decision, as hard as it is, pull the trigger or not. I'm working on bullshit. I'm working on it. And so whenever Easter, coming up a few weeks, right, or a few months, and you just, Rasputin, I'm going to, Rasputin in your ear, you're going to think when somebody says something, and then you just quiet. And the first time that you break that ice, it becomes easier and easier. You'll be invited to less events, but you don't have time to go to the events anyway. And remember what Peter told his wife, we don't have time to go to the lake, to see our friends. But another thing that Rebecca said, the Viking bitch, as we know her, your wife or your other side of the equation didn't take up the baton to be a high-performance person. You made that decision. So most of the heat should be and will be on you. So whatever blood is spread, in the beginning it'll be you. And one of the smartest things I ever heard, again from Costa Gazos, you only hurt the ones you love. Better, Mr. Peña, you don't love too many. You only hurt the ones you love. Who's my 530? We're moving them up. Who's my 530? Who's my sixth? And that's it. Okay, we're going to move it up to, when do you go for whiskey tasting? 7. Right? Okay, the 5:30 is now 5, and the 5:30, no, excuse me. The 5:30 is now 5, and the 6 is now 5:30. Got that? Okay. Anybody else want to spout out their goal and affirmation for, the world to hear? Okay, we've already heard 3 are Nazi ones, so we don't, but I get emails. Kat actually gets them first and then gives them to me when the kids are during the seminars and as they get deals done. And what I really want, I'll say this tonight when we talk, what I really want is, I don't mind not hearing from you, but when you do your first deal, you can email Kim or somebody. Because we have these other big numbers, how many people actually do deals, of the 100%. But we have to filter out suicides and shit like that. So I can give you a list of those of you that should off yourself, but we don't do that anymore because I'm kinder, gentler now. You're a recipe for blowing your brains out. But then when it happens, Sally felt bad. I didn't feel bad. Sally felt bad. Sally's my conscience. She's my conscience, that wants everybody to be happy and loving to their wives or husbands. And so that's the dream world that she lives in. Okay, there's no other questions? Oh, okay, go ahead. Is this, go ahead.
Is 10 cents to 40 cents, because we talked about it, is 10 cents to 40 cents on the dollar based on the value of the business the normal range to pay back the board members that you fire?
No, I say we've paid as high as 40 cents on the dollar. Actually, 35 cents on the dollar. That's high, but I mean, some of them we get for 5 cents or 15 cents. I think if we did an average, we probably 20, 25 cents on the dollar of the people that got money back. Got money back. Yep.
Have we discussed which industries you think are going to be ripe for QLA?
Well,
yes.
If you don't do healthcare, you're crazy. Healthcare is the easiest, but we've done it across the board. We've done assisted living from the highest to the lowest, crematoriums, funeral parlors, hospitals, but you got to have cash to start the hospital, unless you do a super human deal like Peter Harasti. We've got guys in Mexico buying up hospitals. The margins, if well run hospital, margins are terrific. Construction, aerospace. We've rolled up airports. We've rolled up, zoos. We've rolled up everything in oil and gas, both upline, downstream and upstream, refining, marketing. There's not anything that just about we've rolled up brothels where prostitution is legal in Australia and in Austria and in parts of the United States. There's no limits. We've rolled up churches, religious places. We've rolled up. We've never rolled up mosques, but we rolled up synagogues. But don't get in the nonprofit world, because there's a lot of assets for sale that are nonprofit. Turning a nonprofit to a profit is hard. And you have to really have management skills, and you have to have management that has done it before. Because there's all kinds of nuances in being a nonprofit and trying to undo, and there's a lot of there can be a lot of tax liabilities. All that income that you gathered in on a non-taxable basis, at least some of which is going to be taxable. And of course, they bullshit you, but everybody will bend the truth, not on purpose, but they will, because they're going to give you the best picture possible. It's like when you go out on a first date, which I haven't been on for, I'm trying to remember, try to look your best. Now, a lot of people like to look their best and try to not say anything too stupid, not to put your foot in your mouth on your first date. I didn't do that, but I mean, I try to, I look my best, but I always believed I looked good. But I went out of my way. I didn't call it a doofus test. I used to put the girl under pressure. I want to know just how much shit can this kid take? Because dating me was hell on the best case scenario. So I used to put her under pressure. Your hand was up.
Yeah, of course, when you're looking at businesses to buy, you're looking at cash flow. But do you ever see if they've got systems in place, processes in place?
Yeah, some of these have systems, but some of these places you're going to buy are going to keep their cash in a cigar box. Literally.
But would you still buy them?
Well, I mean, if they can prove that there's cash flow and there's EBITDA, and they're based on their tax returns. Remember, the tax returns is one of the saving graces, because most people won't cheat on the tax return. So if it's plus or minus 10%, the same number on your tax return, then you've got scope to talk. I rolled up hotels. I rolled up motels. I rolled up dirty motels. Back in the day when you used to put the cassette in, you buy the motel room for 2 hours or 4 hours. And you know how you keep track of the cash flow there? You count sheets, because nobody wants to fuck on dirty sheets. I know, I mean, after the Vietnam War, there was a plethora of people came from Vietnam and Cambodia to Southern California, and almost every dirty motel was run by either a Cambodian couple or a Vietnamese couple. And sheets. You know what the average getting flat time is from the time you pay in cash? Now everything's credit card. Paying cash to the time you get to bed and you get your nuts off? 2 minutes and 40 seconds. That's for all you studs. You stud. 2 minutes. I didn't believe it. And I was buying dirty motels up with an ex-Laker, which his name will remain silent. And we used to go, and he was about 6'10", and he was looking for places to put his money. And we go to these places, and there's from Santa Barbara to San Diego, there's a jillion in the old days dirty motels. And you know who the biggest owner of dirty motels was? Seventh-day Adventists. Part of their investment portfolio. Anyway, and we go there and we'd watch. I mean, sheets, you count the sheets. On a cash business, and if 111 sheets were out, you only give them one sheet, by the way. 111 sheets, that means that those rooms got used 111 times during that shift. And the shifts used to be from 6 till 2 in the morning. Okay? And so you'd go to the Vietnamese or the Cambodian little girl with a patch over her eye, missing 3 teeth and a gun on her hip. And in your short, cash, if someone says, "Oh, you mean you want all the cash?" "Yes." "Oh, okay." And then she pulls cash out of her snatch and out of her brassiere and out of her panties. "Oh, you mean you want this?" "No, those bills I don't need." Well, I've rolled up everything. Everything. The pharmacies, yeah.
Is the list of these Russian companies that they have to get rid of available on internet?
I mean, it's online. Everything's online.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Everything's online. There's 13,000 of them. 13,000? It's worth, I don't know. Of course, the owners say they're worth gazillions. But a lot of them have already sold for $1. So, but it's getting in, and now the queue is more than a year old. So, I mean, and I'm not suggesting you bribe people and shit like that, but the only way you get to the head of the queue now is you know somebody to know somebody. And I don't think it's going to get over by December this year. I think they're going to have at least a 3-year extension because there's too many companies that has to be liquidated. Now, if Putin gets whacked, or Putin withdraws from Ukraine, some of those companies now can't go back. In other words, you can't go undo the 13,000 companies, some of which are just shut down. You know, if your company's only a $1 or $2 or $3 or $5 million thing, you just turn the key and walk away. You're not going to spend $2 million paying E&Y or PricewaterhouseCoopers to sell the piece of shit if, you know, the fee's going to be more than you're going to get. So a lot of those companies, there was really like 17 or 18,000 assets, but only 13,000 were worth selling because they just closed the others down. And the insurance that you had on those companies, because there was a lot of Jewish lightning, a lot of the companies burned down, the insurance companies aren't paying off. Because they know there's a lot of Jewish lightning. You know, we could say a Sikh lightning or Muslim lightning, but the fact is, you know, a lot of businesses were burned to the ground. But I've rolled up a lot of, all kinds of stuff. But at 3 to 5 times, and if cash flow doesn't, fine, you call me back when you're back to pre-corona money. And what's exacerbated even more, I said this a couple of days ago, is the employees aren't coming back to work. And it's harder to train these people up. I told you, these restaurants now, pisses me off. The prices haven't gone down in these big, expensive places, the hotels, but you know, they don't know what side to put the fork and the knife on. Or they don't know where to put the glasses, you know. But they're still charging the big money. And then the entry-level employees, before the guy might have been making $20, $22 an hour, they're paying the entry-level employee in America $8, $10 an hour. No wonder they don't know anything. We're never coming back. The world will never come back from Corona. Never. And yet, when you're going to go to Birmingham, this guy's going to tell you that, 2019 it was his best year. Well, you should have sold it then, moron. And you're going to see all these brown faces owning these things. Yeah, well, exactly. Anything else? Okay, I'll see the 5:30 at 5 and the 6 at 5:30, and we'll see you tonight. Does anybody not have their kilt and shoes and shirt and everything sorted out? Good. And when you sit down, I highly recommend you wear underwear, guys, even though you're not supposed to wear underwear with kilts. That's, you know, you're considered a cunt if you wear underwear with kilts. But do us all a favor, because when we sit down in the drawing room, and when if Sally sits across from you and then gets up and moves, it's because your legs aren't together. But it'll be a great dinner, and we'll have a little entertainment, not the least of which is you waltzing around in your kilts. Okay, kids. See ya. Thank you.